There is a graveyard more crowded than any physical cemetery on Earth. It is not filled with bones or dust, but with the cold, hollow remnants of someday. It is the graveyard of potential, the resting place of the millions of brilliant ideas, the world-changing inventions and the magnificent lives that never happened. Not because the people lacked talent, and not because they lacked opportunity. They failed because they lived their entire lives under the sedative of a wish, waiting for a wind that never blew, hoping for a rescue that never came. Look around you. Look at the eyes of the people on the subway, in the traffic jams, standing in the checkout lines of existence. What do you see? You see a fog, a great gray haze of uncertainty. Most people are not walking through life. They are drifting through it. They are like ships without rudders, pushed violently by the currents of circumstance, battered by the opinions of others, ending up on shores they never chose, wondering how they arrived at a destination they despise. They are victims of the drift. Napoleon Hill, the man who spent a lifetime decoding the secrets of the ultra-successful, identified this drifting as the primary cause of failure. But the cure is not luck. The cure is not intelligence. The cure is a singular, terrifyingly simple mental shift. The definite chief aim. You must understand the distinction, or you will remain part of the drifting majority. A wish is a vapor. It has no weight. It has no spine. A wish says, I would like to be wealthy, or I hope to be happy, or I want to change the world. These are weak, passive signals sent out into a chaotic universe. They are easily scattered by the first sign of resistance. When you wish, you are admitting that you lack the power to will. You are handing your sovereignty over to chance. But a definite chief aim is different. It is not a request, it is a command. It is a coordinate lock-in. It is the moment the sun's rays are focused through a magnifying glass to a single burning point that ignites a fire. Until you can define, in specific, unshakable terms, exactly what it is you are here to do, you are merely consuming oxygen. Think of the great industrialist Andrew Carnegie. When he commissioned Hill to study the philosophy of success, he wasn't looking for men who wanted to succeed. He was looking for men who were possessed by a singular idea. Look at the electric light. It didn't exist because Thomas Edison wished for it. It exists because Edison had a definite chief aim that became an obsession. He failed 10,000 times, and yet he did not stop. Why? Because a wish fades with failure. But a definite chief aim feeds on failure. It uses the resistance as fuel. Edison knew what he was looking for. He wasn't hoping to find a light. He was demanding that nature yield the secret of the incandescent lamp. Nature creates no vacuum, and it offers no prize to the vague. This is the psychological law that governs your reality. The brain is a heat-seeking missile. It requires a target. If you do not give your mind a specific target, it will lock onto your fears, your anxieties, and your past failures. That is the default setting of the human machine. To override that setting, you must input a destination so clear, so vivid, and so precise that your subconscious mind has no choice but to hunt for the resources to make it real. You have to stop saying, I want more money. That means nothing. You must define the exact amount. You must define the exact date. You must define exactly what service or value you will render in exchange for it. This is the difference between a daydreamer and an architect. The daydreamer sees a castle in the clouds. The architect sees the blueprints, the foundation, the load-bearing walls, and the materials required to build it on the ground. The tragedy of the modern age is that we are drowning in information, but starving for direction. We have infinite distractions, infinite pathways, and infinite noise. It has never been easier to be busy, and never harder to be effective. You can spend 10 years moving very fast, only to realize you were running in a circle. This is why the definite chief aim is your anchor. It simplifies your life by stripping away the non-essential. When you know, truly know, what your major purpose is, decision-making becomes instant. Does this action bring me closer to the aim? No? Then it is discarded. Does this association align with the aim? No? Then the relationship ends. It sounds cold. It sounds ruthless. But greatness requires a certain degree of ruthlessness with your own time and energy. You cannot build an empire, whether of the mind or of the material world, if you are leaking energy in 1,000 different directions. You must become a laser, not a floodlight. Consider the story of Edwin C. Barnes. He didn't just want a job. He didn't just want to work in an office. He had a definite chief aim: to become the business partner of the great Thomas Edison. Not an employee, a partner. When he arrived in West Orange, New Jersey, he looked like a tramp. He had no money, no influence, and no introduction. By all logical standards, he was a nobody. But in his mind, he was already a partner. He didn't say, "I'll try to get a job." He said, "I will stand by Edison until I get what I came for." He swept floors. He did the menial work. Months turned into years. Most men would have quit. Most men would have said, "Well, at least I have a job." But Barnes was not most men. He was sustained by his definite chief aim. When the opportunity finally came, disguised as it often is as a failure that no one else wanted, Barnes was ready. He saw the potential in the Edison machine that everyone else mocked. He seized it. He sold it. He became the partner he swore he would be. He literally thought himself into a partnership with the greatest inventor on earth. What separated Barnes from the thousands of other men who worked at the Edison plant? Clarity. Absolute, unwavering clarity. He burned all bridges behind him. He staked his entire future on his ability to get what he wanted. And this brings us to the most uncomfortable question you will face today. If I were to stop you right now, strip away your excuses and ask you, what is your definite chief aim? Could you answer me in one sentence? Not a paragraph, not a philosophical rambling. One sentence. If you cannot, you have found the source of your stagnation. You are working hard, but you are not working toward a vision. You are climbing a ladder that is leaning against the wrong wall. But do not despair. The moment of realization is the moment of transmutation. The past is a dead thing. It cannot hold you unless you choose to carry its corpse. Today, right now, you can stop wishing. You can pick up the pen of your will and write the script of your future. But to do that, you must understand the chemistry of belief that powers the definite chief aim. It is not enough to simply write it down on a piece of paper. You must etch it into the neural pathways of your brain until it becomes a part of your autonomic nervous system, as automatic as your heartbeat, as essential as your breath. This process begins with a rejection of the average. The average man is comfortable. The average man seeks safety. The definite chief aim is dangerous to the status quo because it demands growth. It demands that you become someone you are not currently. You cannot achieve a level 10 goal with a level 2 mindset. The aim forces the evolution. It pulls you forward through the sheer gravitational force of your own desire. And desire, true, burning desire, is the starting point of all achievement. Not a tepid hope. A burning desire is a consuming fire that burns the bridges of retreat. It is the mindset of the conqueror Hernán Cortés, who, upon landing on the shores of the New World, ordered his men to burn their own ships. Imagine standing on that beach, watching the only vessel that could take you home turning into ash and sinking into the sea. There is no going back. There is no plan B. There is only victory or death. That specific frequency of desperation, that absolute refusal to retreat, is the only signal loud enough to penetrate the thick, hardened walls of your subconscious mind. You see, your subconscious is the great sleeping giant within you. It is the engine room of your reality. It regulates your heartbeat, it heals your wounds, and it stores every memory you have ever accessed. It is infinitely powerful, but it is also blind. It cannot distinguish between a real physical threat and a vividly imagined fear. It cannot distinguish between the reality of poverty and the vivid emotional rehearsal of wealth. This is where the magic happens. This is the alchemy of success. When you establish a definite chief aim, you are not just writing a wish list, you are programming the guidance system of this giant. But the giant is stubborn. It has been fed a diet of mediocrity and doubt since the day you were born. It has been told, be realistic, play it safe, and who do you think you are? To overwrite decades of negative programming, you cannot simply whisper your goal once. You must scream it internally and externally, with the force of absolute conviction. This brings us to the principle of autosuggestion. It is the missing link between the intellect and the result. Many people are smart. They understand the logic of success, but they fail because the logic never sinks into the feeling body. They know they should be successful, but they feel like failures. The definite chief aim bridges this gap through the power of repetition and emotion. You must become a fanatic of your own future. You must look in the mirror and see the person you intend to be, not the person you currently are. The reflection you see today is just the residual effect of your past thoughts and actions. It is an echo. Do not mistake the echo for the voice. You are the voice. The definite chief aim is the new script. Think of Henry Ford. He was not an engineer. He was a visionary with a definite chief aim. When he decided to produce his famous V8 motor, he wanted to build an engine with the entire 8 cylinders cast in one block. The engineering experts, the men with the degrees and the logic, told him it was physically impossible. They told him it couldn't be done. Ford didn't argue the physics. He simply held the aim. He told them, produce it anyway. 6 months passed. Nothing. Another 6 months. Nothing. The engineers came back and said, it creates too much heat. The casting warps. It is impossible. Ford's definite chief aim did not waver. He said, go right ahead. I want it, and I'll have it. He didn't know how yet, but he knew what. He held the picture of that engine in his mind with such intensity that the universe had no choice but to bend. Eventually, the secret was discovered, the V8 was built, and Ford revolutionized the world. What if Ford had listened to the facts? What if he had been realistic? He would have drifted, he would have settled. But a definite chief aim cares nothing for facts. It creates new facts. It bends reality to its will. But here is the warning. This level of focus requires a sacrifice. You cannot hold a definite chief aim and simultaneously hold on to your grudges, your petty dramas, and your victimhood. There is no room in the cockpit for 2 pilots. If you are focused on why the world is unfair, you are not focused on your aim. If you are obsessed with what they are saying about you, you have taken your eye off the target. You must clear the mental clutter. You must become singular. This is why the written statement is non-negotiable. You must write it down, not type it into a phone where it gets lost among text messages and social media notifications. You must take a pen, a physical instrument, and carve your intention onto paper. There is a neurological connection between the hand and the brain. When you write it, you make it physical. You drag the idea out of the ether and stamp it into the material world. Write down the exact amount of money you desire, or the exact achievement you are targeting. Be precise. A lot of money is not a command, it is a complaint. $10 million by December 31st is a command. Then, write down exactly what you intend to give in return. There is no such thing as something for nothing. That is a lie sold to the gullible. The universe operates on the law of exchange. What service will you render? What value will you create? How hard will you work? Then, you must read this statement aloud. Twice a day. Once when you rise to set the trajectory of the day, and once before you sleep, to instruct your subconscious to work on it while you rest. When you read it, you must see yourself already in possession of the goal. You must feel the money in your hands. You must feel the applause. You must feel the satisfaction of the service rendered. This feels foolish at first. The rational mind will mock you. It will say, you are standing in a small apartment reading a piece of paper. You are not a millionaire. You must silence that voice. That is the voice of the drift. That is the voice of the average. You must persist until the auto-suggestion takes root. When it does, and it will if you do not stop, a shift occurs. You will stop needing motivation. Motivation is for amateurs. Motivation is external. It is a sugar rush that fades. When the definite chief aim locks in, you acquire drive. Drive is internal. Drive wakes you up at 4 a.m., not because you have to, but because you can't wait to get to work. Drive makes the difficult tasks feel necessary. Drive turns the pain of discipline into the pleasure of progress. You will start to notice coincidences. You will meet the right person at the right time. You will stumble upon a book that contains the exact answer you needed. An idea will flash into your mind while you are driving or showering. These are not accidents. These are the sparks flying from the anvil where your chief aim is being forged. Your reticular activating system, the filter in your brain that decides what is important, has finally been told what to look for. Before, it was looking for danger and comfort. Now it is looking for opportunity and resources. The world hasn't changed. You have changed. You have tuned the radio to the frequency of your destiny, but you must protect this frequency with your life. The world is a noise machine designed to disrupt your signal. The moment you declare your definite chief aim, resistance will appear. It will come in the form of skeptical friends. It will come in the form of unexpected financial setbacks. It will come in the form of your own self-doubt flaring up for one last fight. Do not be surprised by this. Expect it. Welcome it. Resistance is the gym of the spirit. You do not build muscle by lifting a feather. You build muscle by lifting a heavy weight that tries to pull you down. Every time life tries to push you off your path and you push back with your definite chief aim, you get stronger. You are tempering the steel of your character. Napoleon Hill often spoke of the strange and invisible force that comes to the aid of the person who knows exactly what they want. He called it the infinite intelligence. Whether you view that as God, the universe, or simply the untapped collective potential of the human mind, the result is the same. When you are definite, you are no longer a solitary figure fighting the world. You become a channel for a power much larger than yourself. But you must be ready to move your feet. This is not magic. It is mechanics applied to spirit. You cannot sit on a couch, visualize a fortune, and wait for a check to slide under the door. That is delusion. The definite chief aim creates the mental blueprint, but organized planning builds the structure. Once the aim is fixed, you must formulate a plan. And here is the secret that stops most people. The plan does not have to be perfect. In fact, it won't be. The first plan will likely fail. The second might fail too. It doesn't matter. If the plan fails, you replace the plan, you do not replace the aim. Never lower the target, increase the action, adjust the strategy. Think of the captain of a ship crossing a stormy Atlantic. He has a definite chief aim, the port of destination. If a hurricane blocks his path, he does not turn the ship around and go back to the harbor of safety. He steers around the storm. He changes his course. He adjusts his sails. He fights the waves, but his compass never stops pointing to the destination. He adjusts the method, never the mission. Most people do the opposite. They hit a bump in the road, they encounter a difficult month, and they say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should aim lower. And in that moment, they kill their potential. They compromise. And once you compromise on your life's ambition, you begin to die inside. You become one of the walking dead, the drifters, the people who used to have a dream. Don't let that be your eulogy. You need to understand that the clarity of your vision is directly proportional to your ability to endure pain. If your vision is blurry, a little bit of pain will stop you. If your vision is high definition, 4K, vivid and burning, you can endure almost any how. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your definite chief aim is your why. It is your armor.